Team, welcome back to the podcast. We are at that time of year where I thought it'd be really poignant to kind of talk about some of the factors that determine how well you recover from a major event and are able to move on into the next phase of your training to get back into your active lifestyle. And we're just going to run through what kind of determines this ability to recover and return quickly back into training. For some, you're going to have that ability and you're going to already within your kind of initial taper week off the back of a major event or a major kind of peak in your training, you're going to be able to roll back into training. Some of you are going to be on the sidelines for a while, and we're going to explain why this might be and how, essentially you can remain consistent, injury-free, and can obviously peak again for another event later on in the year, which is what a lot of you are obviously aspiring to do. Now, number one, race intensity and duration. This is understanding that what did this peak look like? Was it an all-out effort? For a lot of people, obviously, having completed recently the London Marathon, Manchester Marathon here in the UK, we've had people over in the States completing Eugene, Boston. These are kind of key events. We've had a number of people completing ultras, duathlons, etc. as well. These events, they should be all out. For a lot of people we're working with, we built them back from injury. They are looking to peak for these events to see what they're good for, potentially chase down a PB, a potential podium. But for a lot of people, it may be their first effort. They're trying to put a marker down for themselves for the first time on a certain distance, certain terrain, certain event. It's all different. But, assuming that there's a level of intensity, you're going to be, on game day, you're going to be turning up, putting the effort in. You're going to be emptying the tank. And for us, respecting that fact, respecting the fact that off the back of it, your body is going to be in a state of fatigue, in a deficit. You're going to hopefully have emptied your glycogen stores. You would have put a lot of muscle damage into your body. You're going to have this kind of natural fallout off the back of it. Now, what determines that your recovery off the back of this is going to be how well, and now again, we're going to go into this in a bit more depth, but your general kind of your fitness leading into this, your training experience, how long you've been training in the lead up to this, your nutrition, your hydration, your levels of strength and conditioning, the way you've periodized your training up until this point, any previous injuries, and then obviously the mental side of things, how you've approached it, the preparation, your planning. But again, what we're looking to do today is just determine and break this down for you. So fitness level, number two, training experience, guys. Your training experience matters. Like those that have been layering this, have had this consistency month to month, year to year, have managed to kind of navigate these minor injuries along the way, minor setbacks. They would have built up this depth of tolerance in their tissues, not to sound too physiological, but essentially that is the name of the game, in terms of your running mechanics, your movement mechanics, in terms of rehabilitating old injuries, you would have built months and years of training on top of those to eradicate them altogether. But also your race experience, your training experience will have a depth to it. You know what your pacing looks like. You know what your nutritional strategies look like around that. And so with this training experience, it has to be right at the top of the tree. Some people who are struggling may realistically have only given themselves 16, 20 weeks of kind of quality work. They may have had injuries along the way that have set them back along the way as well. So that training consistency is a huge piece. Even someone who's been training for years, actually, if you were to look at how consistent they've been, they may have had a very, very checkered training history up until that point. So this will determine how quickly you recover, because if you've had a checkered up and down or you've had a very short amount of time to train for this in terms of not just a number of months, you're going to have built up actually a low tolerance. You may have fitness-wise, you may be able to experience and tolerate a number of hours out on the road, out on the trail, but off the back of it, how well conditioned your body is. That that'll be evident right now if you're kind of recovering right now. And this leads us into your depth of strength conditioning. This is it, right? Your level of athleticism. What, the fallout off the back of your major effort, of your recent race, how deep your muscle soreness has, the extent of your muscle soreness right now. Do you have good joint function, 24, 48 hours afterwards? In other words, could you sit down into a squat right now? Could you get up and off the toilet right now? Could you walk down a flight of stairs well right now? Likely you're going to be compromised. You're going to have inflammation. That's kind of normal, right? But how quickly that dissipates will be determined by this phrase I often coin, which is reboundability, your ability to rebound back into your training lifestyle. And it will be determined by your levels of strength and conditioning. It's one of the factors that people don't quantify or champion enough, but your ability to get back into training post major event will be attributed to your depth of strength conditioning that you've been doing alongside your running training. Some people don't really respect that fact. They just see it as a way of hopefully preventing injury. But they don't think about actually that it not only will prevent injury, but it deepens your level of conditioning within the muscle tissue, within the joint structures. It forces more stability. It asks you more power, more speed. You're challenging so many other qualities that are essentially building out the muscle tissue, building it, developing more strength and stability within the tendons, the structures of your joints. This will be evident because you'll be, we've got people coming back from a competition and moving into training within a week, 7 to 10 days, because they have this depth of conditioning. Periodization has to be up there, guys. How you've properly trained in the lead up to this, not just following a templated training program. It's actually, have you deloaded along the way every 4-6 weeks? Have you deloaded, allowed your body to adapt to the training stimulus, whether it's your S&C work, your run programming? Has there been quality deloads along the way? In other words, dropping your training by 30, 40, 50% sometimes, getting you actually making sure that you're fueling adequately in those deloads so that your body is adapting, kind of repairing, replenishing in those moments to then build into the next block. This periodization, how long has that been for? 16 weeks, 20 weeks? Has it been 48, 40 to 50 weeks of training in the lead up to this? That is actually where the real depth comes from. Like someone who has built and built and layered, built and built. And this is what we want for you moving beyond this current event. Can you move into this next phase? If you haven't done this, guys, this is what you want to be leaning into. Can you be kind of having more of a focus on your strength and conditioning, dialing in on some of those areas that maybe you probably didn't bully enough in the lead up to this current event? Off the back of this, how is your body pulled up? Are you more sore in certain areas than others? If so, maybe they're a big focus, or they are a symptom of a bigger problem. Your calves are blown to pieces, your hamstrings are blown to pieces, your lower back, your knees, whatever. They potentially are symptoms of a bigger problem that we could be working on. In terms of your periodization, absolutely. Right, from this moment onwards, forecasting out, what do you want the next number of months to look like? How are you going to build that volume back into your training? Like, what are you going to integrate alongside that? Hopefully your S&C work. That would be a fantastic thing to be just thinking about. There's always variables as we're building this out, guys. Nutrition and your fueling, your recovery and your hydration, they will have determined right now how you're feeling. The whole way along throughout your program, had you been following a comprehensive program or a comprehensive approach, nutrition and hydration would have been right up there, right alongside as you're building up your training volume, as you're asking more of your body, within your intervals, within your long steady state efforts. Hopefully you would have had dialogue along the way in terms of holding you accountable to better nutritional strategies, training your gut, obviously understanding the importance of using supplementation, like you using gels, hydration tablets, salt tabs, whatever you're leaning more towards. This should have been in place because, guys, essentially it's not only about kind of managing the training block in the lead up to these events. On the day, it's as you know, this will make or break the day itself, the result itself. But then post-event, you have got to be having these behaviours. They continue. The desire to have a beer and have a pizza and eat some good wholesome food. Like nothing wrong with that. But you've also got to understand that you're getting those quality macronutrients back into your body as quickly as possible. These behaviours aren't. Some people would see this as almost like a negative, like it's but these are just good high performance mindset to be in. You want to get back into good training. You want your body to recover as well as possible. Make sure you're getting quality macronutrients back into your body. Like, yeah, have fun with it, but also just make sure you're getting enough in as quickly as possible post-event and in the weeks afterwards. Like, living at race weight isn't ideal. It often isn't healthy for most of us. Getting that energy availability back in, like, so you're up to a place where you've got a regular menstrual cycle again. Maybe it was light for the last couple of months. Maybe your mood was affected because you are kind of sitting at a much lighter weight and you're in a state of fatigue. These are hugely important kind of parameters to be thinking about. So your nutrition, your hydration will absolutely be a game changer in terms of how quickly you recover. We can exist in a very dehydrated state, day to day, week to week, unless we're called out on it. Understanding what our sweat rate is in the lead up to these events. And then obviously moving beyond that, like what do you need to get yourself back to a normal state? These are behaviors that we just want to be in place. Sleep and rest. Do you know what that looks like for yourself? Like in terms of getting back into performance, championing the importance of sleep. Like it is the most important thing of all the bells and whistles and all the 1%ers that we're in terms of heat and ice and compression, everything else, sleep is right up there. Like, what are you doing in the weeks leading off the back of these events to prioritize sleep and recovery? Because you put such a level of work into your body that you've destroyed yourself on a cellular level. You've completely depleted those glycogen cells. You've completely stores, in lean muscle tissue in your liver. You've obviously completely dismantled yourself in terms of muscle fiber damage. You're going to be, you have a lot of inflammation across the body. What is the number one thing that can do to improve that? It's going to be rest. It's going to be recovery. It's going to be deloading yourself. So in those weeks off the back of it, to improve your obviously your recovery, it's going to be moving, continuing to move, having some form of mobility routines in place, some sort of active recovery. But it's walking. It's going to be some sort of yoga, Pilates, dynamic warm-up mobility routine based off your S&C programming. You're going to be doing things that are just promoting good range of motion, good joint function, good stability again, reinforcing those basics back into your body, building confidence again in your body. These are great ways to kind of just flush the system out and just, again, build yourself back. Understanding your previous injuries, respecting your previous injuries. If you've had a checkered history in this period of time off the back of these events, respecting the fact that those injuries could be still in the background, a niggly calf, a hamstring, a lower back, a knee, whatever it is, respecting that fact, giving your body that opportunity to, again, repair, replenish, kind of settle down. And we're talking about inflammation here a lot of the time. They're allowing your body to kind of move past this level of fatigue. And it's going to, again, you're going to be able to mitigate the likelihood of re-injuring, just allowing yourself to get back into training again. And the last one is your mindset. Your levels of motivation, like recalibrating what your expectations post-event. Like what are you now looking to get out of your training? You're looking to feel good again, move well again, like go back into like the day-to-day pleasure of just training, potentially without massive kind of or very strict guidelines, moving for, instead of working to distances and intervals, maybe working just for going out and doing running and training for time. Within your S&C work, it's going to be about re-establishing movements, not overloading your system within your running. It's going to be, again, just getting out, enjoying some simple terrains for time, not distance. Yeah, but again, just letting your body build back that kind of levels of motivation again, and that willingness, and allowing yourself with this mindset to then allow yourself to rest, to be able to be in this deload state for the short term. Because all of these guys, all these variables are something that you've got to practice, you've got to work on time and time and time again. They're reinforced daily, weekly within the community that you're working with, within the program that you're working from. But this is something that doesn't come just, first, straight off the bat with most people. These are all things that you learn along the way. But this is how you now rebound and move into the next phase of training, how you now start to target the next event if you're looking for it. But essentially, if you're just looking to move back into that active lifestyle, that nice routine, that timetable that exists where you're balancing the pressures of work and family life and everything else, these are the kind of the variables that you can be working on. And certainly if you feel like you haven't dialed in on some of these areas as much as you thought, this is a great opportunity to now pivot. Right. I felt like this was good. This could now continue to be improved upon. Your training experience, your strength and conditioning was there, but it could have been a bit more, bit more individualized. I've got a few key areas I could be working on. Periodization. Let's map it out now. The next few months. What do you now want to achieve in this next training block? Nutrition, hydration, probably areas that we can always improve upon. So that's just us kind of sitting down, looking at your current nutrition. What were you doing up until this point, and now what do you need to do beyond this? Sleep and recovery. Are you being held accountable to this? Are you having that uncomfortable conversation where you're actually being held accountable to more rest days at the moment, more rest time? And then obviously just allowing yourself that bandwidth to build yourself back. So guys, just a few variables, factors to be determining your recovery post-event, something to think about, journal on, and anything you want to talk about more, get in touch and let us know.